So we are presented with this dilemma. Binah comes from Chochmah, and is in effect deciphering that which is in Chochmah. And the question is, how does that occur? Since that Binah and Chochmah are categorically apart, there is no interrelationship between Binah and Chochmah. From looking at from the perspective of their Madrege, what Chochmah stands for, or what Binah stands for, there is no bridge there. Because Chochmah relates, as you said, defesses, relates and recognizes only the Atzmi, the Etzem Emes, whereas Binah relates to the Mitzias.
But in other places it says that the Chochmah Binah is turned in the Loyim Misparshin.
That's right, that's the question. That's exactly the question. Tveimim, the Misparshin. Not only this in the Misparshin is a pshat that Binah has the full impact of Chochmah. This is our question: how does that happen? Since they're categorically apart.
But if it's turned in, Chochmah doesn't have from Binah.
What?
Chochmah doesn't have from Binah.
Doesn't have of Binah. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying. It's not. How does it happen that Chochmah has and is able to supply Binah? If it is only because of reduction of oil, mid ha'oir, because mid ha'oir does not constitute a change in category. We gave the mashal for this.
Friday you said Chochmah descends to the level of Binah by reduction of light.
Yeah, that's
so
what
there is an interrelation.
No. That is what we were suggesting in the minor. And then he said, but that's not Yef Shalema. That's what the Yef Shalema goes over. But it's not possible to say that because of reduction of oil, Chochmah becomes an element of Mitzias of Binah. Because Chochmah, by definition, it says defesses. What Chochmah recognizes is not Mitzias. He gave them the emotion for this. It's important to remember, to reflect back, to refer back to how this thing is explained. Chochmah and Binah is Riyah in Shmiyah. What do you know when you see something? So we pointed out that contrary to what our instinct says to us, that we see just the physical presence, the real truth is that when we look at things, we see their most profound significance. Not their physical things. Such as, going back to our table, when you see a table, you see a table, not board and legs. That's what sight is. Sight does not leave you empty-handed. What am I looking at? You see a table. You see its reality. You see it from the perspective of how it was conceptualized to be. This is what Chochmah is. He does not even recognize Yesh the Metzias. He recognizes it goes into where is the source? What is it all about? How come it was made? And here's another point which I want that we should recognize. A table is not just a board with four legs. A table also represents the environment where it stands. A table in the field, in the street, in the park is not a table. That's a board with four legs. A table is a table that is in a room, in a home where people live. That's what a table is. So a table is that's just a concept, a human concept of what a table is, not its physical structure at all. When you enter somebody's home and you see a table, you recognize, oh, these people live like human beings. Not they have a table with four legs. So the table, the sight, this is the phenomenal thing, sight relates and recognizes the concept, the concept behind what it's saying, the conceptualization, what's called haskola, conceptualization of something.
We're talking about sight to clarify the way that Chochmah sees significance, relates to...
That's right.
Fine.
That's right. And then we have the question is, how does it come into being?
Okay.
And we had, so to speak, a well elaborated motion for this. When you enter somebody's home, and you see the owner of the home sitting there in the living room. You don't have to deduce logically that this structure over here is a home for a human being. You see it. When you see it, you see it directly. There is no logical process in this seeing.
This is a mashal for the way Chochmah dynamically sees Etzem?
That's right.
Okay.
Okay. And in this mashal itself, we pointed out that there are various stages in this, and there could be reduction of mirvoir and miyutor. When you come in and the person greets you, that's rivoir. Then it completely overwhelms every question. Okay, this is a home of a human being, and he greets you. He welcomes you into his home. What if you come in and he's sitting there? He doesn't pay attention to you. He's doing his own thing. He's eating breakfast. Does not require then for you to logically say, oh no, this must be a human home. You still see the reality of it. This is Chochmah with a miyutoir. Even though it's miyutoir, it still remains Chochmah. It means you still go directly to it. You don't have to go to Hasoga to figure out where you are. This demonstrates the principle that says that if this is riyah, it remains at that level regardless of how much oil there is. Even if there is miyut oil, there is no expression, no interaction from the source, from the human, from the host, still it remains clear that this is where you are in his home. So Chochmah is a madrege that goes, no matter how long it goes, it remains Chochmah. And it does not relate to binah. Binah means that you figure things out by some kind of a process. Chochmah completely negates that. So where is Chochmah, how to binah, and how does binah derive from Chochmah? its input. Like you said, but Chochmah being not called Tremispashi, which means that there is an input, an impact of Chochmah into the Binah. But how? The minute you come in and you see that we said what we see, you don't need to go back to Binah to figure things out. Binah is totally an important, insignificant existence. This is the question. However, the principle in this is the Inyan, how Chochmah and Binah correlate, and what of Chochmah goes into Binah, and what does Binah accept and receive from Chochmah. The Inyan is this: Hine Yoduah, for it is known, the Chochmah being on Nikra Ayin v'Yesh. The Chochmah and Binah are actually described as Ayin. Ayin means non-entity, and Yesh is a presence of a Metzius. Ayin is clearly a very elusive concept. On the one hand, it's Ayin. There's nothing there. It's Ayin, correctly called Ayin, non-entity. And yet, on the other hand, Ayin has the ability to create Yesh at the greatest, in the most developed fashion. I want to give, again, an illustration of what we mean with this. A home, a structured home, has walls and has a ceiling. What?
The person's not muted.
What?
I think so. The person on the phone is not muted.
I'm muted, okay.
I've done it once.
Can anybody know how to work this guy? Okay?
So far, so
No, he said somebody on the line is not muted.
So I turned them down.
What?
I turned them down.
Ah, okay.
You turn it on.
Let's follow through this. You have a structure. From one hand, it appears that this structure allows to be used any which way you want. But that's not entirely true. It does have a structure. It has a form. And immediately, as soon as you see this structure, immediately begin to think, how can I use it? Why was it built? It is not there from an ayin perspective. Even though it's an open house, a big room, still it is a room encompassed with walls. There was intent to it. That's not the real ayin. You will not bring into this room a horse. Doesn't fit. For some people, a dog fits into the dining room, but most people, it has a certain design, a certain message. This is not ayin. Ayin means that it is not disturbed no matter what you do with it. If it is not disturbed no matter what you do with it, does it contain anything? How does it relate to the yesh? Yesh me'ayin. So here's the thing I thought would give us a sense of an inkling of this. The ground upon which this house is built, prior to the house being built, What is the status of this ground? On the one hand, it's totally AYIN. There's no design to it. There's no limit as to what thoughts it brings to mind. There's a phenomenal thing with ground that I talked about last week. What's called real estate. What does real estate mean? Real estate means that this thing is going to be sitting there indefinitely. It has more patience than you can imagine. You can sit and wait until you decide to do something with it, and sit and wait, and even if you decide not to do anything with it, it's still going to wait for you. What is it waiting for? What does it represent? It represents the AYIN of your presence. Any time and anything that you want to do with it, it's ready, and it's all contained in this AYIN. This AYIN provides for everything, and does not represent any kind of limit to what it is. So this AYIN does not have an element of yesh whatsoever. In other words, it does not, it's no limit. Not like a house that also allows you to put any kind of furnishing, but still there is a yesh element in there. There's kind of a limit. This AYIN is a true AYIN. But this is not an empty AYIN that does not ultimately provide for your use. But you can derive, you can do with it whatever you want. And it will tolerate whatever you do and support it. Not support it because it has its quality in it, but because it provides the AYIN for everything. This is not AYIN on Yesh V'Yayin. Chokhmah tells a person. This is why Chokhmah is so elusive and so important. Chokhmah is the source of life. Chokhmah tells a person, there is the truth. What it is, it remains for you to define it. This is why we said Chokhmah really, what is it, how does it tell the truth? If you have the Moidal Ho'emes, if you accept truth, then Chokhmah tells you, here it is. You're bending not the page. This that Chokhmah and Binah are called Yesh and AYIN. AYIN, again, is not. AYIN is that which provides for the Yesh, but not by limiting it, by giving it full reign. It doesn't even demand, why don't you amuse me? No, you could amuse me, not use me, it makes no difference. I'm there for you to support you whenever it comes up. What's in the AYIN? Chokhmah provides us with a sense that there is a reality that supports us limitlessly. We have an obligation to do Hashem's mitzvahs. And we know that, if we don't, there's going to be a reckoning. There's going to be a reckoning, but we're not going to cease to exist if we make an Aveda. He's going to continue to support us and give us a chance to correct our ways. This is the AYIN that gives full support to the Yesh. Okay. This is Chochmah and Binah.
What we just said that AYIN gives us full support. Is there any? I mean, seemingly the mashal with the ground being ever present, always ready.
If you neglect your ground, it becomes overgrown. Has that affected the capacity of the ground for anything that you have, that you can do?
Right, let's say not, but still that it shows the intention of support. The ground showed a degree of sort of indifference, not support.
A support to the extent that it seems that it's indifferent. But in fact it's support. If you put a beam into the ground, it's going to hold on to it.
Again, support to such a degree that it seems like indifference?
That's right.
Oh.
It limitless.
Okay.
You have to try to understand it's very subtle. If you come into somebody's home, you know that it's somebody's home. On what basis? Is it based on any kind of observation? No. Even to the extent, if you take the proprietor of the owner of the house, you throw him out of the house. Is this house no longer his? It will be his, not only through his lifetime, for generations to come. It's an interesting halacha, by Lulav and Esrik, we have a problem with Gzeilu. A kosher Esrik cannot be from Esrik HaGozel, a Lulav HaGozel is possible. How do you know who owns the house? How do you know that how this owner ever got this piece of land? Maybe 3 generations ago, the owner was thrown out of their land. So therefore, this is Lulav HaGozel. This is a real question in halacha.
It seems like we just answered the question of how Chochmah relates to Binah by saying it's so indifferent that it supports the Yesh.
Okay, this is what the Rebbe says. AYIN and Yesh. How does AYIN support the Yesh? It is not a direct flow from Yesh to Yesh. In other words, because of reduction of oil, now it becomes Binah. It's a completely different phenomenon. The Yesh, the Binah, clearly needs support, needs a basis. And Chochmah is a total elusive basis. This elusive basis becomes the basis for the Chochmah and Binah. This is what the Rebbe explained. Im Kain, okay, at the end of the second line. Im Kain and thus, is Havas Habino me HaChochmah hu bivchinas yesh miyayin. The Havas Habino from Chochmah is bivchinas, is in the manner, and it represents, even after the Binah comes from the Chochmah, it's a yesh miyayin. Which means you cannot explain what this yesh is doing here. How does it represent its predecessor?
There's no predecessor.
There's no predecessor.
Well, talking about this example of saying that the home belongs to him for generations, there is historical examples, like in Second World War before, that people got thrown out of their house and they could never retrieve them.
The fact that they couldn't retrieve them does not mean it's not theirs. Halachically. The only way that real estate can transfer ownership that has a legal Torah basis is through war. A melech can take over the malchus from somebody else.
Which is what happened. What happens during the war.
No, but during the war,
there's no halacha for that.
no, during the war, okay. So the national takeover, but the private ownership is a separate thing. Yes, indeed, this land now is owned by France or by America, but this particular house belongs to the individual person. He has now become a subject of a different country. So this in the Gzela element remains essentially, unless it's confiscated by the government itself. That's a different thing away.
Yeah, that's what I was talking
But okay, if you're talking about confiscation of the government confiscation, it's a different thing.
about. And he still retains ownership?
No,
Oh, he loses ownership.
no, that's right.
Uh-huh.
There are reparation organizations,
Yeah.
there are efforts to have been.
Because you realize the crime, their own crime. And this is the bivchinas yesh v'yayin, which means it's a yesh, but it has no predecessor. It has no base where he got its presence. Hainu, which means to say, AYIN the chokhmah, the AYIN of chokhmah, which is essentially that which provides for the possibility of binah, but who bivchinas helen, but it is in a complete concealed manner legaba hayesh de binah, towards the yesh of binah. The yesh of binah does not recognize its source in the ayin in the chokhmah. It's there, and it does not have this, so to speak, the basis, the sense of this, where do I come from? What justifies my being here? On the other hand, I'm a full presence. I'm a full presence. I'm a binah, a yesh. And as we shall see eventually, that a yesh without an ayin is a precarious existence. Everyone knows what precarious means?
Yeah, hanging by a thread.
You not anybody. You know what precarious means? Shaky. Questionable. I exist while I exist. But I don't know what's going to be the next second.
But still Chochmah has its agdara that it's made
Sorry?
still Chochmah has its agdara that it's made ala emes and it's mugder and limits in it. So why is it ayin? Why is it you can't do anything with it?
Because moide, we spoke about this. What is the difference between knowing chokhmah and moide?
Good, but it can't be. Chochmah is not a platform for sheker.
No, I'm talking. Chokhmah is not.
A platform for sheker. Why doesn't it have its hagdara? Why is it called ayin?
You in somebody's home, and you decide, I want to throw him out and take over his home. What gives you that perception? I can throw him out, and this home is completely his. What are you going to take over if you throw him out? The answer is you take over that, the moidal hoemes, the reality of this home that is beyond the home. I'm going to go to a more fundamental state of this home, prior to it being a home. And that's what I'm going to take over. Chochmah gives you the sense that this is a real estate. No matter what you do, it's going to be there. If you negate the ownership, doesn't mean that this is going to cease to exist. It's going to continue to exist. And you see it from its inception that this is how it is. This is Chochmah. This is the essence. Okay.
If the ownership is binah, right? So in this case, it would seem like the ayin did not.
No, wait a second. Ownership can be understood by binah, but the essential binah ownership is chochmah. When you meet the owner of the house, you know that there is the ownership not by any kind of a logical process. You just see this is what it is.
Right. It would seem like that could not be refuted. The fact that there seemed to be a reality beyond that allowed for incorrect ownership seems to show again that.
And this is the big thing, that when you have say ownership goes beyond the use of ownership.
And even the correct identification.
Because it has a basis, a real basis.
Okay.
This is how far Chochmah goes. Even to the extent that we can understand with our Chochmah, and we can understand that Karka Einon Ixelis. This is a swara in the Gemara. Karka Einon Ixelis. What does that mean in Ixelis?
You're just giving an example that where it wasn't zealous, so throwing him out of the house and then going to a deeper.
It doesn't. No, but Einon Ixelis because it remains what it was. Functionally, you can take it over, but it remains what it was. Einon Ixelis means, like we said, you take it over and it still belongs to him. Halachically, it still remains to him. It belongs to him.
And by Metalton is not so.
No, mentality is not that way. That's right. Okay, and the third line, v'hainu sheho'ayin the chochma hu b'bchinas helem legaba hayesh debin. What is b'bchinas helem? B'bchinas helem means it's not that it's not present. Of course, it's there. This is what gives it a presence. but it isn't. It provides the present in a Helen manner. It completely abbreviates itself. But this is what provides its being. The Zehu HaHefresh, which points out the difference between Ayin v'Yesh L'Ila v'Yolo, between the relationship of Ayin and Yesh and Ila v'Yolo. Ila v'Yolo seems to be of a similar process as Ayin and Yesh, but there is a fundamental difference. The Ila v'Yolo, but in Ila v'Yolo, which we discussed a long time, for a great length, Hush ha'olu masig as ilosei. The principle of Ila v'Yolo is that the Olul comprehends its Ila. V'ali deizeh, and as a result of this truth that it's masig as ilosei, it comprehends and understands what the Ila is. Whom is have min hol. This is how he comes to be a mitzias from the Olul, from the Ila. The Ila substantiates the presence of the Olul. The Olul is not mayayin. The Olul is not hanging in thin air. Doesn't have cannot trace back where do I stand for. No, I stand for the Ila.
He knows his basis.
He knows what?
His basis.
He knows the basis. That's right. V'hainu, which means to say, Shalidei hahasogo shemasigas ho'ilo. That's as a result of the fact that he comprehends the Ilo, harehu nimtzo b'mitziusoi. This is what gives him a place, a possibility of being a nimtzo in his mitzius, even though his mitzius is not the mitzius of the Ilo. But this is what provides for it. Our nimtzo in mitzius. We spoke about a certain phenomenon that exists in these days, in the mix-up of the world. The worst thing that can happen to an individual, to a person, when a person does not know who his parents are. This is quite prevalent in the wilderness of today's world. This is why there's so much crime, because there's no true orientation. I'm not for real anyway. The only reality I have is what I can do. If I can do a crime, I feel I'm there. If I can create havoc, I'm here. Without that, I don't feel I'm existing. The first orientation is Yankee ben Yitzchak, Yitzchak ben Avraham. Yitzchak was a man in his own right, but what is his right to being Yitzchak is ben Avraham.
Here Yesh Ayin is not sufficient.
Sorry?
Here Yesh Ayin is not sufficient. It has to be Ilu Vavu.
That's right. Because it's a Yesh within an environment. It's not a Yesh in no man's land. It's Yesh relative to other Yesh, to other people. Because it's masig as ho'ilo harihu nimtzo b'mitziusoi. This is what gives him the ability to be what he is in his mitzius. because there's a basis for his Metzias. Alright, we have enough time to learn the next two lines, but I'm just going to read it. V'yesh mi'ayin hu, but yesh mi'ayin hu adarab, is to the contrary. Sheho ayin mis'alim min hayesh, that the ayin mis'alim stays in a concealed state. It conceals itself from the yesh. Sheine masi geisi, what the yesh does not comprehend the ayin. V'yal deizeh, as a result of this, hu nimtzo b'bchinas metzius yesh. So then, because the ayin, it conceals itself, therefore he is nimtzo b'bchinas metzius yesh. How is this different with nimtzo b'metzius soy? By illegal it says nimtzo b'metzius soy. Here we're saying nimtzo b'bchinas metzius yesh. The meaning of yesh me'ayin is that the emphasis of the yesh is that I'm a yesh, not who I am and what I stand for. The all stand is mitzius soy, what he stands for. Yesh me'ayin is just a yesh without limit, because the ayin is behalem. So I happen to be here. Where from? I just happen to be here. It's yesh me'ayin. All right, this is it for this morning, I guess. Yeah.
Expansion, limsa.
Present.